We all love a legendary comeback, and Degree Original Cool Rush is back and better than ever. Cool Rush isn't just a scent, it's a movement, a fan favorite that delivers bold, fresh vibes and all-day sweat protection. Whether you have a man that spends hours in the gym, heads into the office early, or is just trying to stay fresh on a long day, Cool Rush has their back. Head to your local Walmart or Target and grab Degree Cool Rush, the fan favorite scent from the world's #1 antiperspirant brand.
I turned off news altogether.
I hate to say it, but I don't trust much of anything.
It's the rage bait.
It feels like it's trying to divide people.
If we got clear facts, maybe we can calm down a little.
NBC News brings you clear reporting. Let's meet at the facts. Let's move forward from there. NBC News, reporting for America.
As moms, we often wonder, am I doing enough for my kids? I'm here to tell you, you are Super Mama. That's because we have an undeniable superpower, our intuition, and it never steers us wrong. I call it our mom sense. Hi, I'm Kanika Chadda Gupta, and I'm the host of That's Total Mom Sense. I'm a journalist, entrepreneur, wife, and mom of 3, twins plus 1. Now, if I had $1 every time I heard, gee, you have your hands full. On my podcast, I interview influential moms from various industries and cover topics that all first-time parents grapple with, from getting your baby to sleep to screen time allowance, your new normal in your marriage, and how to dedicate time to yourself. Learn and laugh along with That's Total Mom Sense. Nutrition is important for everyone, but especially for growing little humans in critical development stages. From infant to toddler, tweens to teens, it is important to take a look at the food and diet we give our little ones to ensure that they're getting the nutrients they need and proper nourishment. During the pandemic, we've all become hyper aware of our health and are eager to learn ways to boost our immunity and that of our kids as we stay safe. Jackie Elnahar is a registered dietitian, attorney, and founder of TelaDietitian, the premier telehealth solution for nutrition counseling that was recently acquired by Teladoc Health, and it's traded as TDOC on the New York Stock Exchange. Jackie has successfully counseled many patients in nutrition using the latest evidence-based research on diet and nutrition science. She believes in a nutrient-dense approach that maximizes health-boosting compounds such as phytonutrients and minimizes harmful ingredients like neurotoxins. Jackie has been featured in Today, Shape, Dr. Oz, Women's Health, Glamour, Huffington Post, Pop Sugar, and more. Jackie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Kanika.
Absolutely. First, I want to just hear a little bit about your journey and how you got involved with nutrition.
Absolutely. So nutrition is definitely a huge passion side project that started. I was actually in law school and I had a friend dealing with lupus, and she was getting a lot of symptoms that weren't getting helped by the medication she was on. So I did a lot of evidence-based nutrition research, and we were able to mediate her symptoms with diet and lifestyle changes. So I was really interested in how nutrition can change health and change lives, especially since I saw it firsthand. So that's where I got into nutrition. During law school, I started the registered dietitian program, became a registered dietitian, worked clinically in different hospital settings, and then started a telenutrition platform, since it was a great way to give people access and convenience to telehealth, which now we see with COVID-19, since more people are using telehealth. So telenutrition was just that, having people see a dietitian in a more convenient way. So they definitely are able to get medical nutrition therapy.
That's brilliant. And it's incredible that you came up with this concept kind of ahead of the curve, now that we need it more than ever. Due to the pandemic, doctors have pivoted to telehealth calls and videos over in-clinic visits. How has this affected your nutrition practice?
Like you said, ahead of the curve. I mean, telehealth was definitely around, but it wasn't getting adopted. And many people were wondering, what were the obstacles? And now with the pandemic, people don't want to risk exposure. So hence the telehealth boomed in the past several months. So with telenutrition, it changed dramatically since it's hard enough to see your doctor during the pandemic. People are definitely not risking to go to an in-person dietitian visit, but they still would like to see their dietitian, especially since the COVID-19 is affecting people with underlying conditions mostly. And these underlying conditions can be very much diet mediated, such as diabetes, heart disease, and high blood pressure. So since there is that connection between medical nutrition therapy and COVID-19, we're seeing a lot more telenutrition visits more than ever.
Yes, absolutely. Do you think that telehealth is as effective in providing guidance and the prescriptions necessary versus doing an in-person visit?
That's a great question, Ganika. So the quality of care shown in many studies with telehealth have been shown to be the same, if not better. So we did a telenutrition specific pilot at New York Presbyterian, and it showed that patients were more likely to see their registered dietitian, more likely to keep their appointment, and more likely to have a second follow-up appointment. So it really increased the efficacy of the telehealth visit as far as quality of care and also a better engagement. Another interesting thing is there were studies at Veterans Affairs that also showed the efficacy of telehealth. So the quality of care question has really been shown that it does work. Hence, insurance companies are covering it more as reimbursement.
Right. Okay. That's great. Very good to know. Now I want to just delve into how immunity relates to our health. What is the relationship between our health status and our level of immunity?
Yeah, I mean, the basic bottom line is being in good health helps your body fight infections. So how do we have good health? Well, particularly with COVID-19, we know that pre-existing health conditions affected people to fight the infection. The CDC reported that 90% of Americans that were hospitalized did have an underlying health condition. These include high blood pressure, obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. And I want to point out here that, many of us say, we don't have a health condition. 10% of the population does have diabetes, but 35% has this condition called prediabetes. And that's where blood sugars are higher than normal. And that cumulatively does lead to diabetes. 35% is a high number. It just showcases that how much Americans are eating more refined carbs, more sugar than we need to be eating. And that's putting us at risk for developing type 2 diabetes as well as impaired immunity. But that's really essentially how the health status and immunity work together. By being healthy, you're able to fight infections, and COVID-19 definitely showed that to us.
Okay, great. So if we were to cut right to the chase, how do we strengthen our immunity through our diet?
And that's like the $1 million question right now. And it's so funny because it's actually not a linear line. There's not one thing that you could do that makes your immunity 100% better, because the immune system is actually a system. So it's not one entity that's being affected. So when you look at a system, the word we want to think of is balance. Our immunity system needs balance and harmony to function properly. What we call it is a state of homeostasis. So our body functions well when our cells and organs are all getting the nutrients they need and everything is in balance. There's still a lot more research to be done on the interconnectedness of the immune system. But what we do know is that an abnormal immune response usually comes from a place of being out of balance. And that's the overactive autoimmune response that we're seeing with Kawasaki, which is unfortunately affecting kids. That's really an abnormal immune response. We don't know the exact cause, but it looks to stem from some sort of lack of balance. So when we look at the immune system, we want to think balance and harmony. And when you look at that, there's so many factors that can affect that. Nutrition is certainly one of them. When you look at nutrition, micronutrient imbalances can cause impaired immunity, lack of phytonutrients, which is notorious in the American diet that we don't eat enough vegetables. And then also the immune system that we have in our gut. 60% of the immune cells are literally in our gut. That balance can also affect our immune mechanisms as well.
Okay. Could you explain what phytonutrients and micronutrients are?
So micronutrients essentially means vitamins and minerals, and it's called micronutrients because you need them in micro amounts. This is unlike macronutrients, which are your carbs, protein, and fats that you need in large amounts, and hence the term macro. So micronutrients, although you don't need them immensely as far as amount, they're very important for different functions of the body. So certainly needed for getting the recommended daily allowance for those micro amounts for vitamins and minerals. Phytonutrients are different. They don't have a recommended daily allowance for phytonutrients by the USDA, but what they are compounds found in plant-based foods like fruits and vegetables that have been shown to modulate the body's response. So, for example, they can upregulate your immune system so that it functions better. It can help with your digestion. It helps with skin. It helps with hair. Phytonutrients have been shown to improve health overall. And the USDA has recommended a diet rich in phytonutrients because it has health-boosting compounds, which we're still learning about. We're really at the tip of the iceberg as far as research and understanding how phytonutrients help our bodies.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. How does the body break, these nutrients down when they come from food?
So that's the metabolism, the nutrient absorption of foods. So micronutrients and phytonutrients and macronutrients all go through the metabolism. When we talked about that balance again, the better balanced our body is, the more nutrient absorption you're going to get. So that's gut balance, that's getting the right ratios of foods. So for example, vitamin C helps with the digestion of iron. If you're getting zinc, you also need to get a certain amount of copper. So this type of balanced, nutrient-dense eating allows your body to get everything it needs, absorbs what it needs, and then functions properly.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, tell us about supplements and, which ones we should be using.
Yeah, for supplements, I highly recommend supplements, especially when you have little ones at home. It's hard to get them to eat foods that are nutrient dense. It's like a wish, like a unicorn. Like it's so difficult, especially consistently every day. So for supplements, I recommend a whole food multivitamin. They have that, and they have it for adults. Whole food meaning that it's vitamins and minerals derived from food sources rather than synthetically made. Those whole food forms are more bioavailable and they don't affect the liver like synthetic ones do. Along with a whole food multivitamin, I recommend a probiotic. I recommend at least 3 strains and the amount 10 billion plus of the units. So yes, you want to get at least that to have efficacy. And then also you want to look for acid-resistant capsules if you can. So those acid-resistant capsules help it survive the stomach acid so that bacteria gets to the intestine where you get the most benefit. And I also recommend omega-3, super good for brain health, and it functions as an anti-inflammatory, especially against omega-6s, which is something we get a lot in our diet. Again, it's that balance. You want to have omega-3 balancing it out so that you're getting anti-inflammatory effect of the omega-3 versus the pro-inflammatory of omega-6. But the omega-3 in supplement is important because now with the fish in our oceans, it's hard to know the polluted waters, the farm raising, the different countries of origin, the mercury levels. So I do suggest 1 to 2 servings of fish, particularly wild salmon, but then to get a lot of your omega-3 from a supplement, since the supplement has been purified from mercury sources. And then for supplements, as we all know, they're not regulated, unfortunately, by the FDA, which is kind of scary because CVS actually tested 1,400 products and 7% did not meet the safety or accuracy standard.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so 7% is really high. So I always recommend to check your supplement, or when you go to shop, to check Labdoor or NSF or USP or Consumer Labs to check the supplement, to see the efficacy of it, to see the safety, the accuracy. Luckily, there are these third-party sites that do check and to utilize those.
Okay, so we will definitely link those in the show notes. And is there a brand that you think is kind of a gold standard superior compared to others?
Not in particular. I mean, there's different, like for omega-3, they have better brands than for a multivitamin. There's really nice niche specialties. Like you have the Nordic Natural for omega-3. Garden of Life is good for probiotics. There's a handful of ones that you look at the brand integrity and you look at the mission of the company, and then you check it on these third-party sites for accuracy and safety standards. But that's overall what I would be looking at, just, the company, who's behind the company too, since I find the mission ones that really believe in what they're providing and the ingredients.
Yeah. And we've heard a lot of talk about elderberry and zinc. Does that help immunity in any way, especially when it comes to our kids?
Yeah, so they have delicious elderberry gummies, which you can give to your kids. So these are in the category of immune boosting foods that we have on the market. So zinc is important because it helps the immune system work as a cofactor, and it helps wounds heal. So that's why it's usually in these immune system focused vitamin supplements. And elderberry has been shown to help reduce colds, help reduce the duration of a virus or illness. So that's also added. And it's included because it has a lot of clinical studies backing it. Other things that you'll see in immune boosting supplements is definitely vitamin C. Its role in the immune system is very clear in how it helps T cells, B cells, gene regulating effects, and then it helps prevent people getting an infection in the first place by helping the innate immune system. And then it also helps the adaptive immune system. And I just want to explain that quickly, because the innate immune system is your first layer of defense against a pathogen or any virus or bacteria that comes to you. And you want that to pretty much hit the ball out of the park when it comes to pathogens, because you don't want an overactive immune response. You don't want a cytokine storm, which is essentially what's happening in these more complicated COVID-19 cases. You want your body's innate immune system to remove any low-bearing fruit like COVID-19, which is not, a very dangerous virus in itself. It's really when the immune system doesn't know how to handle it that is really causing the not only respiratory complications, but the cardiovascular complications that we're seeing with COVID-19, including the inflammation of the arteries, which is happening in the Kawasaki cases. But for vitamin C, it is a water-soluble vitamin, so you can take it in a higher dose than what's recommended. So the RDA is 90 milligrams, but you could take up to 1,000 milligrams for higher doses of vitamin C for better immunity. Other huge one that has already been in studies is the vitamin D component. They looked at countries that have lower levels of vitamin D versus higher levels of vitamin D, and those with higher levels didn't have as many COVID-19 complexities as far as cases. So that's still being researched. It's still obviously early, but the death rates were correlated to vitamin D deficiency, and that's really important. So they're saying that vitamin D helps the immune system response and prevents that cytokine storm that affects people's survival.
Yes. Okay. Now, supplements are always going to be secondary to, actual food. And I feel that that's probably because of the level of absorption and the metabolic process around it, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So to give an example of that, there's something in broccoli called sulforaphane that's so immensely healthy. It's been shown to help reverse prostate cancer. It's a phytonutrient. And it's funny because a pharmaceutical company was looking to just take the sulforaphane out, make it into a little pill, and make tons of money. But what they found was that it works best in the broccoli itself because there's enzymes in the broccoli that help break it down, that help it get absorbed. So, it just shows you that eating the whole food form has a whole system behind how the nutrients get absorbed, whether it's enzymes or the way the amount is, the breakdown of the nutrients. Certainly whole food forms and nutrient-dense diet is certainly superior.
Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs, but luckily there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku, and it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Hi, it's Eva Longoria, and let's be real. After 40, we should ask for more from our skincare. I swear by Revitalift Triple Power Moisturizer by L'Oreal Paris. With vitamin C, pro-retinol, and hyaluronic acid, it reduces my wrinkles, firms, and brightens. And it's not a procedure. It's just a hardworking moisturizer.
Revitalift Triple Power Moisturizer by L'Oréal Paris. Grab it today in fragrance-free or with SPF 30. Available at your local Walmart.
Yes, yeah, it makes sense. Not to sound too colloquial, but like with vitamins and supplements, do we just absorb what we need and pee the rest out?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the water-soluble ones you do, and then the fat-soluble ones like D, E, K, those can stay in the body in fat stores.
Okay. Should you be taking supplements when you don't know if you're deficient or not? Because this is something that, as consumers, we're not testing. We're not able to see lab results of a blood test to say, okay, I'm deficient here, I'm deficient there. And still, so many people are popping supplements because they feel that it's enhancing their immunity or doing something.
And that's a great question. I think it's, the practical way of doing it is I always advise people to just get a one daily vitamin. The one daily ones are not huge dosages of any particular vitamin or mineral, so you're not taking too much of an amount that you could have adverse effects, but you're meeting the minimal amount. So for like zinc and magnesium and iron, a lot of premenopausal women are lower in iron than they should be. So taking, a supplement can help, avoid any particular issue, especially because we're not getting blood tests every day. As moms, we're barely, able to brush
our own appointments. Yeah, it's just the kids and their well visits.
Yeah. So, one daily certainly helps, especially as women. We need vitamin B6 for energy. Magnesium helps with relaxing. Iron, I mentioned, 15% of women, 15 to 20% of women premenopausal be deficient in iron, right? So you want to make sure that you're getting that because that could lead to fatigue. Vitamin D, extremely important for women. You want to get a supplement of that since you need about 600 to 800 IU, and you're not going to really get that much in your diet. And just to give you an example, a cup of milk, which is fortified with vitamin D, has about 100 IU. And then you have to look at other foods like mushrooms and sardines, foods that you're not going to eat every day to fill that void. So I highly recommend that, which will come in a multivitamin form, or you could get it separately at 1,000 IU vitamin D.
Okay. Do you feel that kids should be taking a similar multivitamin or just a vitamin D kind of dropper or gummy? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, if you ask my kids, they think everything should be in gummy form. It's crazy. I mean, I think multivitamin for kids is, in my opinion, a must because their diets are so inconsistent. Some days they just eat, one grilled cheese the whole day and snacks. And, it's just they are so finicky because I have a 1.5 and 3. So they're just very finicky ages. And, I advise that to all moms that you just want to make sure your kids are getting the baseline, which a good multivitamin or good gummy multivitamin would provide. It's just the baseline. It's not anything extra, but certainly meeting the minimal requirements for their growing bodies. And then for extras, you could always give omega-3, a probiotic. I give my kids vitamin D because of the immune issues right now with, COVID-19. But, that's something that is always helpful for immunity and doesn't have any adverse effects unless you take it in a huge amount. So as long as you're within okay amounts that you're not having adverse effects, I highly recommend using a supplement to exactly supplement your diet. Nutrient-dense foods is definitely a must because, as you mentioned, the absorption, the totality of having a nutrient-dense diet is not replaceable by any pill whatsoever. It's just that you have, this kind of helpful baseline that you're meeting, and then you're adding nutrient-dense foods to your diet. As far as feeding the family, it's really what can you add that's nutrient-dense to foods that you're making, the meals that you're making. Where can I add more vegetables? Where can I add more phytonutrients? That's really, the way to think about it, adding more healthy foods.
Right. That makes sense. What age should we, get them on those gummies?
Yeah, so gummies, as long as it's not a choking hazard, you could start at around age 3. Make sure that your child is able to chew it. And then before that, you could use droppers for any particular supplement. Vitamin D is used for infants and toddlers, especially if the mom was breastfeeding at the time, since vitamin D is needed for breastfeeding moms. But essentially, anything else after 3, certainly utilize a gummy or a chewable multivitamin, which is just as fine.
Okay, great. Now, let's talk about the actual foods because, like you mentioned, there is, really no substitute or replacement for that. We can supplement, but truly all of the nutrition that your body needs is in the healthy food. So what are some immunity boosting foods that we should be buying in our produce section?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for immunity boosting foods, we're looking at things that have some evidence based behind them. So we want to find things that have that vitamin C, vitamin D, helpful phytonutrients. And the big list I have here is you want to have garlic, mushrooms, and broccoli rabe, kiwi, ginger, orange, lemons, green tea, and onions. And I could go through the specifics of each, but essentially mushrooms have that vitamin D, broccoli have phytonutrients and vitamin C, a kiwi has a vitamin C, as well as oranges and lemons. Green tea has that EGCG, which is that important phytonutrient that also helps with that innate immune response. So your body can fight things quicker, reduce duration of illnesses. And then onions have that quercetin in them. And that's really important for the innate immune response. But that actually has a study behind it with SARS. So there was a study with SARS, which is also type of a coronavirus, that quercetin was able to reduce the ability of the virus to get into cells. So that was a clinical study. So certainly adding onions. Other foods that have quercetin in them are the skin of red grapes and apple.
What are some of the foods we should steer clear of and avoid right now?
Sure. So I have this broken down in 2 ways in my mind. So for kids, you certainly want to steer away from foods that, again, can affect the balance of their growing bodies. So there's foods like neurotoxins that pass through the blood-brain barrier. And one of the worst culprits of that is mercury. So I generally advise parents not to give their kids tuna more than once a month. And even with that, the Mercury Policy Project advises only the light tuna, not the albacore tuna. There's also MSG that is harmful. And what's interesting is you'll find this a lot in hydrolyzed vegetable protein. As we're all trying to eat more plant-based, we also have to be careful that, some plant-based stuff might not be as healthy as they look. So hydrolyzed vegetable protein won't say it has MSG on the label, but it does have MSG. Another huge problem I'm seeing a lot today is aluminum. That does accumulate in the brain, and it's been associated with Alzheimer's. So many people, unfortunately, cook with aluminum cookware or have the food directly touching aluminum foil. It's just, part of life. My mom's always cooked with aluminum foil, although I turned out okay. No, it's something to be mindful of. If you can choose a ceramic cookware or something that doesn't have that neurotoxin effect, especially when you're cooking with high heat. And then pesticides. Pesticides have been shown to affect immunity. They affect kids' brains. I'm sure many of you have heard of the Dirty Dozen and Clean 15 from the Environmental Working Group. It's just an excellent list that's so helpful for eating healthier on a budget. You could pick which ones to purchase organic and avoiding the Dirty Dozen when possible. Make sure your water is clean. The lead in the water is also a potential, it can affect the nutrition of the child. And then the BBA in plastic and food packaging. And another thing I want to mention with kids, a lot of mom friends I know just recently, they always have apple juice in their pocket purse, and juice, in general is not advised. The Academy of Pediatrics recommends no more than 4 ounces of juice, if at all. But if you're doing apple juice, 70% of the apple juice that comes into our country comes from China, and it's shown to have arsenic in it. So I try and steer clear of apple juice altogether for kids, and juice in general, because juice has sugar, and sugar has been shown to impair immunity and causes higher inflammation markers.
Wow, that's really enlightening. I had no idea. And we don't really give much juice at home, just, like home style orange juice. Is that okay?
Yeah, orange juice is excellent.
And I dilute that too.
Yeah. No, and kids are still going to be kids. I agree with diluting it. And another, quick trick is actually making them into popsicles. You dilute the orange juice and put it in a popsicle mold, especially now it's summer coming.
Yeah.
Kids get hydration and popsicle.
Right, exactly. And of course, we're avoiding the sugary treats, right?
Of course, yep. When we talk about sugary treats, you're talking about refined carbs, you're talking about high sugar, potential high fats, and a lot of these other sugary treats like Fruit Loops to Nutri-Grain green cereal bars actually have what we call the rainbow of risk. This is what we call the yellow 5, red 40, and a handful of other dyes that are in kids, what I call pretty snacks. We don't want, these pretty fun snacks that have these potential dyes in them because they are associated with neurobehavioral issues, whether it's hyperactivity or even greater than that. So those items you want to avoid, and they are, by law, they have to be on the label. So you could look for the label and avoid those.
Right. And then, of course, the ones that have high fructose corn syrup, right?
Yeah.
So many, if it's like the baked goods and cookies and they have, the high fructose corn syrup in them. And, we're pretty mindful of this at home, but cereal as well. If your cereal does not say organic on the box, it most probably contains Roundup.
Yeah, the most of the oatmeal in this country has Roundup in it, unless it's organic. And organic, we're hoping that the regulations are being followed to a T with the labeling and everything. But you're absolutely right. The oatmeal and Roundup, and then the grains that they're using. And Cheerios itself says it's, genetically modified product.
Right, exactly. I mean, I have been so kind of discerning of this because even like I shop at Trader Joe's and Whole Foods, and there are cereals that don't say organic on them. But just because you're buying them from a store that typically sells organic products, if it doesn't say it on the box, then it has it, And so you just, you really have to be a discerning consumer and read those labels.
Absolutely. Yeah. And another thing with cereals is when they're gluten-free, they just replace it with corn. And corn is just a high glycemic, generally also is pesticide-laden crop that you don't want in your cereal by any means. So it's very clever marketing, and moms just have to take that second to read the labels to be a little bit more discerning. You're absolutely right.
Right, exactly. Do you think kids should follow a diet like their parents if they're doing keto or paleo or are vegan?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So you want to prevent any nutritional deficiencies. So with vegetarian, vegan, you have that potential vitamin B6 issue, vitamin B12, issues with iron, since iron is more bioavailable from animal sources. So you want to prevent those issues in their growing bodies. The other diets that really harbor on this low carb theme like keto and paleo, your child has a lot of energy right now, and carbohydrates are still the premier source of energy for the body. So you don't want to deprive them of having energy readily available in glycogen stores that are for their muscles to use. So you don't want to have that risk. And it could be very dangerous if their blood sugar is too low. It could affect their brain. And ketosis for children could be dangerous. So, it's dangerous for adults as well, especially if you have a pre-existing health condition. But, the ideal solution, again, is that nutrient-dense approach where you're getting the baseline of everything you need and then adding all these great nutrients from phytonutrients, from vegetables, and avoiding sugar. Sugar is really a toxin itself. The effects it has on the body, impairing immunity, the inflammatory biomarkers that it creates in the body. So by reducing sugar, whether in the form of regular white sugar or the sugar that's created when you eat refined carbs, you want to minimize that. But you certainly want to include healthy carb sources from whole grains and then from healthy starchy vegetables like sweet potatoes. But that sugar and the refined carbs, high glycemic, that turns into sugar in the body quickly. That's just, nutrition 101. We just want to avoid those. And that's really the best approach for kids. Nothing too extreme, making sure that they're getting all the baseline nutrients for growing, and then doing your best. The Academy of Pediatrics recommends eat at least 5 servings of fruits and vegetables for kids. If you could, numerically visualize that in a day, maybe I could add tomatoes with their eggs in the morning, maybe adding zucchini to their meatballs. Getting to that number is helpful.
Yes, yes. And you touched on the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. That's something that, again, each household should be knowledgeable on, and especially now, right, when we're disinfecting everything. And so, even with the Clean 15, you want to still use a fruit and veggie wash, right, to make sure you're all good. Would you agree?
Yeah, it's been shown to help reduce pesticide residue that does stay on the fruit and vegetable. And you want to use it now for 2 reasons, because someone's handling the fruit and vegetable. So you want to, ensure the most clean surface on the fruit and vegetable. And then also the pesticides are meant to be water resistant by nature. So having a fruit vegetable wash that helps break it down a little bit so you can rinse it off is helpful.
Yes, exactly. So you are quite the home chef, and I would love to be part of your family because I know that I would be eating this delicious food that's nourishing too. Mm-hmm. So could you tell us a little bit about the meals that you like preparing for your husband and kids?
Absolutely. And my home is your home, Ganica. So anytime after social distancing, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but it is tricky cooking when you have toddlers because they don't have a sophisticated palate as, my husband does. You're trying to make food that's tasty, yet also kid friendly. So I also taught my kids to eat salad with their food, and it's not like a traditional lettuce type salad. One of the things I love making for them and they enjoy eating is a bean salad. So bean has the fibers, has phytonutrients, has protein, olive oil, salt, pepper, with different vegetables I have at hand. I'll cut the tomatoes and cucumbers into bite-sized pieces and make it more of a kid-friendly salad. So that's a staple that we have at dinner. And then a lot of things, my kids like homemade veggie burgers that I cut into shapes like dinosaurs. The most popular is the dinosaur shape. And I literally think my kids took the other shapes and I don't know what they did with them because they thought they were toys. But so I'll use black bean burger recipe and just put them into the dinosaur mold. And another thing my kids love that is super easy for any mom to make, I call it spinach pie cupcakes. But you could take any puff pastry or even a pie crust, you cut it into squares and you put it in a muffin tin. And then I fill it with spinach, feta, salt, and pepper. And I just put it in the oven, 350 degrees for 20 minutes. My kids love spinach, but that's about the only healthy thing they like.
Yeah. And I mean, you can hide it in there. We eat a lot of lentil or dal. In our Indian cuisine. And dal can be just a very simple recipe of lentils with tomato and onions, but I throw the spinach in there. I just hide it in.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny about this cupcakes. When it comes out of a muffin tin, it's handheld, so it's easy for them to eat. Mm-hmm. But also, you could add any type of vegetable that you have. Right. Now, with grocery stores being more difficult to get to, we're more creative in the kitchen. So like if you have zucchini, you'll cut the zucchini,
Yeah.
And then making veggie fries is also really popular at our house. Zucchini I use a lot, or carrots. You cut them into French fry strips. You put them into a flour egg mixture and then coat them with Parmesan cheese, salt and pepper, bake for 20 minutes. Essentially, with kids, you want to think of something that is easy for them to eat, not a choking hazard, and definitely nutrient dense. So like you said, anywhere you can sneak vegetables. We also do a lot of smoothies now. And then when whatever smoothie they don't finish, I just put into a popsicle mold and then it becomes a popsicle a couple of hours later.
That's smart. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, just trying your best to add any type of nutrient dense phytonutrients for kids. Super helpful now with, especially, if they do go back to school this fall, you'll want to have them eat as healthy as possible.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, we're all moms trying, right? And another thing I find kids like is a homemade trail mix. I tried to find one on the market that I liked, but they either were way too sweet or didn't have the right ratios of macronutrients as far as healthy fats and protein and carbs. So you can make one at home with like a soft nut like cashews, add some chocolate chips, some cranberries, and it's fun for kids to munch on as well.
Yes, that's a good one. And again, the store-bought ones have M&Ms in them oftentimes, and M&Ms have the, the yellow 5 and the red, coloring additives in them. So you got to avoid M&Ms in any case.
Exactly. Yeah. Honestly, when I feed my kids healthy, I feel like, okay, and it's not always perfect. Like literally some days you're just like, okay, you
just
could
eat the damn French fries. It's fine.
Yeah. My kids, of course, are going to eat an ice cream cone and, sometimes they'll have potato chips. This is, we're all human, but we do our best. And, I feel great when I'm able to get them to eat something healthy. They don't, I feel great as well because, they're doing just fine. They're going to be okay.
Yes, exactly.
So it's important to just, and be happy that we're able to, put food on the table and enjoy it all together as a family. So,
yeah, absolutely. That's the bottom line. And I think that the more you put in front of them, the more you introduce to them, sure, they're going to be, a little picky at first, but you're just broadening their palate. And eventually, they'll pick it up. I did read there was an author of a kid's cookbook that said that you should put a foreign food in front of them like 50 times before you get a hit, and it's fine. So just put it in the corner of the plate, and even if they just are disgusted and don't want to try it, maybe by the 35th time that they've seen it, they're like, all right, I'll take a bite. So yeah, I think parents, we urge you to just push the envelope a little bit, and you'll be happier for it that you've introduced foods that you want them to enjoy when they're older too. Yeah. Okay. So now tell us about a mom sense moment you had, a moment in time where you just trusted that superpower gut instinct of yours.
Eldest son, Peter, loved going to school, his nursery school, his first year. So I was really happy about that. His second year, he gave me such pushback. He just didn't want to go. And I was like, that's strange. You loved your first year and it's literally, the same curriculum for the most part and same kids. So I volunteered to read at his class. And what I found was interesting. I just found the teacher to not be as engaged with the students. And I just found it wasn't as nurturing of an environment. So it was a good moment to realize, maybe he's just not being challenged enough here, or he doesn't feel as supported since teachers, really make the classroom. So I switched him out and ended up being a positive change. Now, he's happy to go to school, and not now, but before. And it was just really helpful because I wanted to make sure he was happy going to school. It's such a huge part of, his future life.
Right. Wow. That's great. I'm so glad you went with your instinct at that one, and you did your own little reconnaissance by going to the school.
Yeah. Sneaky mom.
Have to be always.
Yeah, we're so creative.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. It comes down to that sometimes.
Let's not forget our quote of the day.
Is there a quote that you live by?
Yes. So there's so many, but one of them is be willing to fail, but unwilling to quit. Simple quote, but failure is a part of the path to success, but quitting is not.
Yes. That's a great one.
It's now time for Mom Haul, when we share products we love.
Is there a product that you're loving right now that you want to share with everybody?
Yeah. So I talked about how sugar is a big no-no. They do have fruit boxes, juice boxes that are actually not juice. They're just flavored water. And they're amazing. Hint makes one and a couple of other brands, but it's just flavored water. And it's great to have on the go when you don't want to have a juice box with sugar.
Yes, absolutely. And mine is kind of taking from what you mentioned during our chat, but it is cutouts, the animal or shape cutouts that you can use when you're making all sorts of foods at home, like the dinosaur ones you mentioned.
Oh, yeah, they're great.
Yeah, where can my audience find you?
Definitely. So Instagram, Jackie Elnahar, Twitter, Jackie Arnett RD. My website, I'm going to be posting more recipes since I've been cooking a storm in quarantine. Just haven't had a time to post, but a lot more recipes will be posted.
That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jackie, for taking the time out and educating us on how nutrition is where our health and our immunity begins.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ganika, for having me, and stay well.
I hope you learned some interesting facts on childhood nutrition from Jackie Elnahar and now have a grocery list of immunity boosting foods, which are especially helpful during the COVID outbreak and otherwise for growing kids. As always, follow me on Instagram at Kanika Chadda Gupta to check out other episodes of That's Total Mom Sense and leave a review wherever you listen. Google Podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Anchor, I'm everywhere. Visit my website to learn more. That's totalmomsense.com. Remember, always trust your mom sense. Stay strong, Supermamas. See you next time. That's Total Mom Sense.